Hey, Mike Sullivan here in downtown Royal Oak at Shaffer and Associates Realtors, here on behalf of Hall Financial and our good friends over there. And today, I'm excited to talk to Brendan Davis. He was my realtor. He got me into my first home that I purchased just a few months ago. So really looking forward to that. We're going to talk to him, get his story, and certainly get some information on the current state of the industry and whatnot. It should be fun. Excited to have you guys join us. All right, Mike Sullivan here with our good friends over at Hall Financial, and today, awesome to be joined by the guy who helped me get into my first house at Shafer and Associates, Realtors here in downtown Royal Oak, Brendan Davis. Brendan, how are you, sir?
Good to see you again.
Beautiful office down here. I've never been
Thank
here
you.
Downtown Royal Oak. It's perfect location. It's really
Great
cool.
location, good food all around.
Yeah, you guys got a nice little kitchen over there. I'm sure there's a lot of snacks and whatnot, but
For those who don't cook, there's plenty of restaurants to
yeah,
go to. And yeah.
It works perfect. Now, Brendan helped me a few months ago get into my first home here in Royal Oak. And guys, look, I know it's a stressful process. I know that a lot of questions you have, but this guy helped calm my nerves. And I guess I'll start out with something, Brendan, that was big for me, and I assume this is for anyone buying a home. You were really, really good with helping point out stuff when we did these tours that I otherwise wouldn't have known. You know, stuff with the foundation, little inspection type stuff. I felt like it was like having a pre-inspection almost with you every single time we toured a house. Is that something that you emphasize when you are showing houses?
Well, yeah, I think for a lot of first-time home buyers, what we always tell them is, you know, when you are out looking at a house, you as a buyer want to focus on the fancy and shiny stuff, the stainless steel appliances, you know, the granite countertops, all that stuff. While those things are nice, ultimately home ownership can become kind of a pain if the nitty-gritty stuff isn't there.
Right. Is
there foundation issues? What's the age of the roof? How old is the furnace? If you're not looking at those things, what can happen is you go under contract to buy a house, an inspector will come in and basically tear your house apart, and you're gonna feel awful and not want to buy the house
anymore. The next thing you know, you're getting a phone call 3-4 months later from someone saying, why did I get into this house, you know? So that's about avoiding that, I would assume.
Yeah.
But now, you personally, how long you been a realtor?
So just under 5 years.
Just under 5 years. Now, when did you, I don't know if you have a moment that you knew, but like, when did you know, hey, this is the type of work I want to do, this is the industry I want to get in? What made you direct your path towards this industry?
I don't know if there was a moment that made me say I want to be a realtor, but prior to being a realtor, I owned rental properties in Royal Oak. So I was kind of in real estate while not being in real estate prior to. So that kind of led to a natural progression of let's just go do this full time because I enjoy it and I like doing it.
Well, and that kind of leads me to my next question. Now, I looked up a couple of the most popular questions that realtors get asked. So, A, I want to know if you hear these all the time. You're probably used to answering these, but B, I certainly want to just get your answers as a whole.
Okay.
So one of the biggest questions that people ask when they're buying a home is, hey, how many homes should I tour before I buy one? Have you got that one before?
We get that question a lot. And unfortunately, when a buyer asks me that, I have to tell them that there's no right answer to that question.
Right.
You can have a buyer that will go out and see 5 homes, write an offer, get it accepted, and be done with the process. You can also have a buyer that will see 50 homes. There's no right or wrong answer.
What do you say the average would be?
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably going out 3 to 4 times and seeing about 3 to 4 houses each time.
And I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure there is kind of a anomaly type example where someone saw one home, they bought it, someone saw 75 homes before they bought one, or something ridiculous like that. But
I saw 2 before I bought my first house.
Did you? And I think I saw, I don't even know how many did we see,
You were probably
15?
Average, 15 or so.
Yeah. Another question for you that a lot of people ask, and this is a question that I kind of had too, getting out of the previous home I was in, but how do you manage that crossover time period between, hey, should I sell my current home before buying one? You want to minimize that crossover period. What's your advice on something like that?
Again, it's something that's going to be specific to each individual. If you're a homeowner and you're looking to buy your next house, there's obviously things we as realtors can do to protect you from being homeless, right? So we as a team will close over 700 transactions this year, and we've had nobody become homeless. So we have the ability to negotiate post-closing occupancy, and then that would give you time to go find your next house before you have to be out of the one you're selling. So it's things you can do as a realtor to protect your client. The other thing too, speaking with a lender like Hall, some people don't have to sell their house before they buy their next one.
Right.
It's obviously a nice position to be in. You can go out, start home shopping, find your house, move into it, then put your other house on the market.
Now, how about here specifically at Jim Shafer and Associates? You guys we were talking about this earlier, most of your business along the Woodward corridor, correct?
Correct.
So explain that in terms of the majority of the business that you guys do here.
So yeah, the majority of our business happens within the Woodward corridor, the area we define as Royal Oak, Ferndale, Berkeley, Pleasant Ridge, and Huntington Woods.
Okay.
Obviously, Oak Park and Hazel Park are two communities that we do business in as well, and that's really been driven by the increase in home values, pushing people to those two communities. So yeah, it's primarily where our business happens. Will we go out and help somebody look for a house in Rochester?
Yeah.
For sure. But being local like that allows us as realtors to become experts with situations you see in those communities.
It's local, it's community-based, it's not even local, meaning, hey, Metro Detroit, and you said, of course, you will go other places, but to have 95% of your business done within that Woodward corridor is pretty interesting. I didn't know that either.
And we all basically, too, on the team live and work in these communities.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're in our office here in Royal Oak. I personally live in Royal Oak. We could go through our team, and most of the people on our team also live in those communities.
Now, obviously, super competitive industry. There's no doubt about that. But based on your experience, if you had to define it, what do you think exactly makes a good realtor? Because I'm sure you've seen good ones, you've seen bad ones.
Correct.
What are some qualities that are, hey, that's a good realtor?
I think the two biggest are honesty and hard work. So you want a realtor who's going to be honest with you,
right?
Which is important. But you also
not
want to
just say anything.
Correct. Yeah. But you also want a realtor that's going to work for you, work diligently for you. So I would say those are the two biggest things that when you're looking for a realtor, that's what you want.
Now, would that be, if you had to say your two, not even two, however many there are, your core business philosophies, would those be the two that you kind of point to most, or do you kind of have some other business philosophies and morals, I guess you'd say, that you factor into your practice too?
Well, high morals.
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, those are the two biggest things I think as a realtor I bring to my clients. I tell people I won't get outworked, and I'm blatantly honest with my clients. So you may remember a house we saw together in Berkeley, which looked really nice. It was a beautiful house.
Yeah, I love that house.
It was great until you went in the basement and we saw the walls were caving in.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a perfect example where someone might walk in and you love the house, right? Hey, this looks great, but it's little things like that I wouldn't have even noticed when I bought a house, that, hey, the foundation has some serious problems. And I believe that house went to close a couple times after we saw it, then backed out. So
Correct.
Clearly you were right.
Yeah,
I'm not
pending a couple times.
Not trying to boost your ego, but clearly you were right. And that's, guys, that is an example of why it's important to have a good realtor like the entire team here at Jim Shafer and Associates, because you don't want to be lied to or just, hey, get into this house because you like it. Sure, let's put an offer in tomorrow. You want that honesty. And that's
Correct.
something I definitely appreciated when you were helping me out. Now, I do want to ask as well, you talked about the Woodward corridor and whatnot, but a hot topic of discussion, especially locally, is downtown Detroit, right? Downtown Detroit has changed a lot over the years. Real estate-wise, how do you see that area, and how have you seen that area change over the years within the city limits?
Well, it's changing because the demographics of the buyers are changing. The millennial population, about 66 million people. The average millennial today is 33 years old. That group of buyers puts a lot of value in walkability in downtowns. That's why you see places like Royal Oak, Detroit, Ferndale, Berkeley becoming so popular. The people that value those things, it's the next wave of home buyers that's coming into the market. So that's what's driving those communities. And again, Detroit is seeing the appreciation from that. It's those buyers value those types of characteristics within a home. My parents, when they bought their house, it was the big yard, picket fence, 2 kids and a dog, right? That's what people wanted, and people moved out north and west. Today's buyers, I'm not saying all of them don't value that, but the majority of them want to be somewhere where they can leave their house and walk to a restaurant, walk to a movie theater, walk to a bar, go shop. So that's why those areas are.
How does that, building off that, how does that factor in terms of, especially with young people, condos versus homes? Do you think that, obviously a lot of condos in a downtown district,
Yeah.
is that something you notice where younger people maybe have a lean towards condos, or is that not necessarily true?
No, it's not necessarily true. Again, it's just an individual basis.
Yeah.
Some people don't want the maintenance that comes with having a single family residence. Others will say, I don't want to share a wall with my neighbor. Because a lot of times condo living can feel a lot like apartment living. So people will say, well, I'm coming from an apartment, right? I have, loud neighbors on the left and loud neighbors below me. The last thing I want to do is get into a condo and be committed to it for 30 years and have loud neighbors. So it's just a personal preference.
Now, Brendan Davis joining me, Shafer and Associates here, downtown Royal Oak. Do you get any downtime?
I do.
A schedule like yours, is it more weekend heavy where you're always running around on the weekend, or how do you find some free time to go watch sports? I know you're a big football guy.
Yeah.
Now talk about a guy who loves college football over NFL. We're debating all the time about that, but
yeah.
How do you get downtime to watch college football?
Well, the advantage that we have as an agent on Shafer and Associates is we have showing agents on our team. So a prospective client of ours could say, I want to see these 3 houses today. And if I just don't want to do that, I need to be away from the business.
Yep.
I have the ability to have a showing agent take that client through those 3 homes, and I can stay home and watch all the college football I want.
Yeah,
so,
which I know you do.
I do. And what's nice too is we train those showing agents, so we know I'm comfortable sending a showing agent with a client because I know that they're going to take care of the client just as I would. So.
Now, one thing I do want to ask you, and this is important. I mean, any business, not even just being a real estate agent or whatever you do, having a mentor, having someone that you can kind of get advice from, and as you're coming up, learn from. Is there someone that you had as a mentor that really helped you along the way?
Probably the guy whose name is on all the shirts I wear. Yeah, watching what Jim built was impressive and continues to be impressive as we sit in a new space today. Again, it was just Jim constantly leading, being forward thinking, but also Jim was very direct with us, and he's always direct with us as far as how we treat our clients. It's service first. Your client's the most important person in the transaction.
Yep.
And he, hammers that into us all the time. So just being honest and ethical. And
I think you got some brownie points for that one, wherever Jim is walking around here.
I hope you heard it. We'll replay it for him
he'll
in case
hear
he
it over
didn't,
there.
so.
I think he's over there in the kitchen. All right, Brendan, great stuff. Have a few more questions before we're done here. Kind of a rapid fire type style. Now take as little amount of time or as much time as you want. But
Okay.
Number one question you get from someone buying a home. We mentioned some earlier. What's the number one you get personally?
Is this a good purchase?
Straight up advice.
Yeah, somebody's walking through a house, liking it. I tell them how much it's listed for, and they'll ask me, is this a good purchase?
And that's where the honesty really comes in, because I
correct.
do give your feedback on that. All right, flip it. Number one question you get when someone's selling a home.
What's my house worth?
Simple as that.
Yep.
Another one that does require a lot of honesty. Okay, best part about your job. Number one.
People I work with.
Worst part about your job.
Other agents.
So, which are people you have to work with.
Correct.
In one way or the other.
It absolutely is, and it's when working with clients, I have to explain to them that, there are a lot of good agents in the industry.
Yep.
But there's a lot of agents, and not to say that they're bad agents, but the average agent sells 4 homes a year.
Yep.
So a lot of times it's just inexperience that we're dealing with, and that can be difficult. So,
what would you say the fastest growing right now? As we talk local, fastest growing new home community in Metro Detroit.
Like specifically new build homes?
You hear about somewhere like South Lyon that's really coming up, or you hear about certainly how big Royal Oak is and popular it is. Is there one that stands out, or is there?
An interesting thing that I tell a lot of people, we don't obviously have full 2019 numbers yet, but in 2018, the community that had the highest appreciation rate in Oakland County, if I asked you that question, what would you answer?
Royal Oak.
Hazel Park.
Which, okay, right there.
So a lot of times people think like, it's the Royal Oaks, Birmingham's,
Yep.
Bloomfield Townships.
Sure.
Those are the. So as far as appreciation is concerned, it was Hazel Park. So.
Now, all right, if anyone's watching here thinking, I want to be like Brendan one day, right? I want to become a realtor.
Okay.
Number one piece of advice, you're all about honesty, as you've said this entire time. Number one piece of advice you'd give someone who's going into this business.
It's really hard. It's hard to get started. The grind in the beginning is not fun. I wasn't on Jim's team at the beginning. I was a solo agent.
Yeah.
And I used to walk around the office and I'd see Jim's team and they were doing all kinds of business and I wanted to be on that team. You don't just get to open the door and say, hey, I'm on Jim Shafer and Associates. Right. You have to go prove yourself.
Sure.
It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of hard work, and it's not easy, it's not glamorous. So it's whatever you see $1 million listing shows and all that fun stuff,
all over
it's not
the place.
like that. So,
Brendan Davis, Jim Shafer and Associates, here with, on behalf of Hall Financial. Brendan, appreciate it, man. And next time I buy a house, we're going to be looking at golf courses and how I can get a house on a course. Okay.
Do I get to list your house now?
Could you just start sending me those right now just so I can already start getting the gauge of
we can do
what
that.
All right, Brendan, thanks, man. Thank you guys for watching, and more to come. Absolutely.